everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Thoughtful Thursday. This is your host, Mae Renfroe, and this is part four of our series talking all things grief. So with my guest, Susanne Murphy. So the last of our series, and I'm gonna miss these times we've been having weekly. Suzanne?
I
It's
know, me too, me too. This has become
yeah.
such a normal meeting.
Yeah, like every
Yeah,
Tuesday we have this, but it's for our Thursday that we release it. But yeah, we've been meeting on Tuesdays for the last
yeah,
well, this will be four weeks if we
for a
enjoyed.
month.
So yeah,
Yeah,
so in so for part four, we will conclude our series. And part three was discovering the things that keep us stuck in our hurt and our grief. And so now this one is about moving forward, right?
yeah,
To get unstuck. So I guess walking in a victory and enjoy moving forward. Okay, and then
yeah.
I want to let my listeners know again that you're a recovery specialist that work with clients in healing and overcoming their emotional pain and grief. So Suzanne, yeah, welcome to our last episode together on grief.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So today we're going to be discussing what recovery looks like and the number one thing we need to do in order to be able to move forward. Before I get into that, I just want to do a very quick recap in case someone's just jumping in.
Hmm.
Um, to this episode. So we covered, in the very beginning, we covered my story and we covered, a really good working definition of what grief is. And then we moved into the myths, which are, those belief systems, the really bad information and advice we get following a loss, which is don't feel bad, don't feel sad, replace the loss, grieve alone, time
Hmm.
heals,
Hmm. Yeah.
stay strong, and keep busy. And then we talked about last week. We talked about what we call STIRBs. So those short-term energy relieving behaviors. It's those habits that we develop in order to not feel our emotional pain, and that could be eating, it could be drinking, it could be, you know, workaholism, it
Hmm.
could be
Hmm.
social media, anything we use to escape feeling what we're feeling is a STIRB.
Hmm.
And the reason why they're really rather dangerous is because they actually work in the short term. Because when I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling upset, I engage in a STIRB and I immediately no longer feel sad or upset. I feel different. I, I so they work for just a moment until the next time
Hmm.
I'm overwhelmed in my emotions, and then I need to re-engage in those short-term energy relieving behaviors. So those, so all of that, and then and we even discussed Academy Award winning behavior, which is acting like you're okay when you are not.
Mm.
I was just
Okay.
trying to fake it till you make it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't work. It does
Yeah.
not work when your heart is completely broken.
Yeah.
So all of that we, categorize as a part of the discovery phase. So in order to, it's kind of like you're not feeling well, you go to the doctor, and they need to first discover what's not working in order to know how to properly
Hmm.
fix it.
Hmm.
So when you go through the program, we spend time going in and discovering, the belief system, those belief systems or the faulty belief systems that we're operating out of. What are your STIRBs? What is your go-to to keep you from feeling what you're feeling? How are you acting recovered when you're not?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so once we get in there and we go through the discovery phase, then we're able, and we make our discoveries, then we're able to move into recovery. So what does recovery look like? Well, recovery is discovering, and then how do I want to word this? Recovery is discovering and completing what has been incomplete in our unique relationships. So the incomplete things, all those undelivered communications of an emotional nature. And, they're very easy to um, discover, actually. On the outset, they can be. I mean, oftentimes, within the first, few minutes of learning that someone has died, we
Mm-hmm.
already, the griever, we already begin to review the relationship, and we already think, wow, I wished I had said this, or I wished I had done this differently, or I wish I told them that. Those are the things that we're incomplete with, because here's the thing that I really want to press. Just because somebody has died does not mean your relationship is over with them.
Mm-hmm.
Or someone has left you, like my husband, actually doesn't mean my relationship has ended. Our marriage relationship has 100% ended, but there's still an emotional relationship that happens,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because I have memories,
Mm-hmm.
we share children. So I'm still hearing, sometimes I'm still hearing, oh, dad's doing this or whatever, what have you, So it ended, just because my marriage ended, the relationship didn't end, it changed.
Mm-hmm.
And the same holds true for people who pass away. I mean, both of my parents are gone. And
Mm-hmm.
one could say that that relationship has ended, but that's not true,
Mm-hmm.
because I still love them.
Mm-hmm.
I still have,
Exactly.
yes, I still have my memories of them. So just because somebody has passed or somebody's left doesn't mean that the relationship has ended. It has simply changed. And so it is, what I need to do is I need to go in and discover all those things that were incomplete in the relationship the way it was, in order for my heart to heal. And because we're all unique, and all of our relationships are unique, what's going to be incomplete for me might not be incomplete for somebody else. So, I mean, there are a
Mm-hmm.
plethora of things that I can, like, off the top of my head. I remember uh, going back like years ago. So, my ex-husband, he was in the Navy, and for a large portion of his time in service, he was in administration, in various administrative positions,
Mm-hmm.
and I taught preschool. So he'd come home from work and he'd be like, "Oh, I'm so exhausted," and I didn't understand. I was like, "You literally sit at a desk all day long. I don't understand how
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
be exhausted. I've been chasing 35-year-olds around in a classroom and outside and dealing with everyone, all these little people and their big emotions. Like, I'm exhausted. I don't understand. Like, I just don't understand how you can be exhausted." Well, fast forward, several years post divorce, I got my first admin job.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the day sitting at my desk, being completely exhausted and emotionally overwhelmed by the emails and all the
Mm-hmm.
things that I need. And I was like, oh my word,
Mm-hmm.
all this time, and so, like, if it were, if we had the type of, post marriage relationship where I could call him up and say, hey, do you remember when I used to be like, how are you tired? Well, now I completely understand. I completely understand. And I apologize for passing judgment on you for that. We don't have that type of a post-marriage relationship. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in order for myself to get complete in my own heart with that emotional communication, I delivered it to someone who was safe to hear it,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
someone who'd be open to receiving that. So, I mean, here's the thing, when you go in and you discover all those things that are incomplete, and I really want to say, with the caveat of being willing to look at the relationship as a whole, we want to avoid what we call enshrinement, and we want to avoid what we call bedevilment.
Okay.
So when somebody passes or somebody leaves, or a relationship ends, sometimes people can get into, a griever can get into enshrinement, where they They don't recall. They just put out of their mind, because we've all kind of been socialized to think and believe, well, we don't speak ill of the dead. But
Mhm.
when we do that, I'm not honoring the part of the relationship where maybe there was a tense conversation, maybe there were um, uh, unkind words shared and heated arguments. If I immediately go into enshrinement where all I'm doing is focusing on all the wonderful things, I'm doing myself and that relationship a disservice, because I'm not seeing it as a whole. And then on the flip side, we have bedevilment, which
Mhm.
is where, like in the case of my father,
Mhm.
who was quite abusive.
Mhm.
If I only ever focused on all the ways he hurt me,
Mhm.
and not the good that was in the relationship, I'm doing my heart and that relationship of dis. I will not be able to heal if all I'm will all of, if I'm going to choose to ignore
Mhm.
any of the good that was in that relationship
Mhm.
and only focus on the bad. I'm shutting myself off to complete healing.
Okay. Yeah. I see
So,
it.
so yeah, so it's really important that we're willing to look at the relationship as a whole, where there are things that I need to apologize for. There are things that, or that I choose to and then need to apologize for. There are things that I forgive. And then there are those significant emotional statements, which, could be, Dad, when you taught me how to clean my carburetor in my first car, like that really meant a lot to me. And I'm so thankful that you,
Mhm. Mhm.
you, you, you saw me as capable
Mhm.
of doing that. And I really appreciate, because that built up a lot of confidence in me. And I just want you to know that that's a significant emotional statement. And so oftentimes, we go through life and things happen and interactions happen, and we don't share those statements.
Mhm.
We don't share those statements. And
Yeah.
and so when the person passes or the
Yeah.
relationship ends as we know it, then we are left incomplete.
Yes.
And so the thing that the number one thing that we all need to do in order to be able to move into recovery is to take responsibility for our emotional healing.
Okay.
So what does that look like?
Yeah.
So let's say I have a garden. I own a garden. I have a plot of land and I
Mhm.
own a garden. And I'm out there and I'm tilling the ground and I'm planting seeds, and I let different people into my garden. And I say, go ahead, you can plant that there, and you can plant that there, and you can plant, and maybe they go rogue, and maybe they plant some things that I wasn't planning on them
Mhm.
planting, or that I didn't even want them to plant. But at the end of the day, they go home, and the next morning I wake up. Who is responsible for my garden?
Mhm.
It's me.
Okay.
It's me. And that's our hearts.
Mhm. Mhm. Oh, I see what you mean.
That's our
Yeah.
heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Proverbs
Okay.
4:23. I think I said this was either in our first session or our second session, but guard your heart with all diligence, for from it flows the
Yeah.
wellspring of life. And
Yeah.
that Hebrew word for guard, nasar, means to guard as something and to tend to as something precious, something valuable.
Oh, wow.
So if
That's
I
good.
if I am waiting for somebody else to come and tend to the garden in my heart, I will never heal.
Mhm.
And I get into a victim mentality.
Mhm.
I could very easily have gotten into a victim. And actually, I will,
Yeah.
to be completely
Yeah.
honest, like, being abused growing up, 100% took on a victim mentality. And I think it's really common. Well, I was a victim. I was 100% a
Mhm.
victim of child abuse. But as I got older, it healing became my responsibility.
Mhm.
And and I will also be 100% vulnerable and very clear because I had the misunderstanding that healing was only going to happen after my father came and apologized and admitted his wrong to me. Well, do you know how long I waited for that to happen? Decades.
Um,
You know what I'm saying? Decades.
yeah.
Because the majority of the time when people really mistreat you, they're not even aware
Yeah.
that they've even really done anything to hurt you. They're so
Yeah.
caught up in their own
Yeah.
stuff that they won't, or they're not willing to recognize
Yeah.
that what they've done has hurt you.
Yeah.
And so once I was in my 30s and I went through healing. I know I shared this. I had developed an eating disorder, and I went through when I was going through healing for my eating disorder, for the eating disorder, was when I learned how to shift out of victim mentality mindset and to take responsibility for my own heart, for tending to my own garden. And I learned that choosing to forgive freed me. It didn't free my father. It didn't absolve him. It didn't wash on, just wash away and put it under the rug, all the things that he had done. No, they were all very wrong.
Mhm.
But choosing to forgive him freed my heart. And I am responsible for my heart, not my dad. So if I continued waiting, because now I'm in my 50s,
Mhm.
can you
Mhm.
imagine, I can't fathom if I had waited 2 more decades for my dad to come along and say, you know what, I was wrong and I'm sorry.
Mhm.
When we do that, we give away all of our power,
Wow.
and
Wow.
we shortchange ourselves on the opportunity to heal.
Yeah.
Nobody else is responsible for my heart or my emotions. Just because, like we'll say in grief recovery, let's say you've got a picnic and it rains, and then you get really upset about the rain. Well, what ruined the picnic? Well, I mean, the rain 100% ruined the picnic. Like, it's downpouring, you can't obviously have the picnic, but it's up to me on how I choose to respond to that.
Mhm.
I could either get into a victim mentality, the day is ruined, this is no good, or I can say, this is a bummer, this is unfortunate, I'm very disappointed that it's raining. That wasn't what I wanted to happen today, but I can't do anything about the rain, but I can do something about how I choose to go on with the rest
Mhm.
of me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so I will say, just in case somebody else, there's a listener out there who has been dealing with their own level of abuse or mistreatment in their lives. I will say, I chose to forgive my dad somewhere in my 30s, and then like early 30s, and then towards the end of my 30s, my father, he sent an apology letter,
Mhm.
and I was so free because I didn't wait around for him to
Yeah.
apologize.
Yeah.
I released myself. I released myself. I did the work that I needed to do to release myself from all the pain associated with the abuse. That by the time I received that letter, I sat there and I read it. And all I could say was, well, good for him. Good for him. Good for him for growing. Good for him for owning his wrongdoings.
Mhm.
Good for him. Like, this is a great moment for him. Now he gets to have, a level of
Mhm.
freedom as well. And I was just that free.
Yeah.
And I just want to encourage anyone who's listening. It's
Mhm.
possible.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm living proof. Like, I believed for so long it was my right to hold on to all
Mhm.
my anger,
Mhm.
to just grip it with everything I had. It wasn't hurting my dad.
Yeah. And like, how did that help? Right? Did
Yeah,
you?
it kept me,
Yeah.
it wore me
Yeah.
down. So much physical ailment is associated with unforgiveness and unreleased anger.
Mm, yeah.
you know so, and the same is true, with sadness, with all of those emotions. It's my responsibility to heal my heart. It's my responsibility to tend to the garden in my heart.
Mhm.
And and just as it was yours. And I don't know, do you know, like, are you able to pinpoint like any particular moment after your son died when you were like, when you moved from grieving into healing? Was there, I mean, I don't know if there was a moment, but
I don't know. I could pinpoint a certain time, or I just did pretty much start to heal from the day I
yeah.
lost him because I just trusted the Lord that if he was meant to be here, he'd still be here. And that's how I felt. Then I just talked to God and
Mhm.
I'm like, God, you were so good. Thank you, God, that, that I'm here. My other kids here. Like, I just thank you for I was just so coming with that heart of just thankfulness. I didn't know what else to do. I just talked to God because I didn't know what else to do. I talked to him about every little thing. And I know that helped me. And then that was where I really firm belief that I'd always felt that we don't die before our time. I mean, that's how I felt. And even in what we called accident, a four-wheeler accident, I still
Mhm.
felt that he would be here if he was meant to be here. And so, um, and I just pretty much started the healing process
That way.
at
Yeah.
that time. I don't know, but it's still there was
Yeah.
different things that would hit me at certain times that, you know,
Sure.
was hard.
Yeah.
But just like
Yeah.
not really believing that he should have. Like I did believe that he'd be here if he's supposed to be here, but about a year after that was really hard. I was still like I just couldn't kind of believe that that was supposed to happen, and like in God's plan or something. I'd be like, injury, yes, but death, no. Like death, like I can see one of our kids getting injured on one of these things, but like die. But then again, I had to go back to, but I realized that he would still be here if he was meant to be here. So that's kind of for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and so yeah, moving forward, it could be like, missing them on a birthday or, those fun, so like for me and my parents, um so like uh my mom's birthday is coming up in May.
Mhm.
Or like yesterday was St. Patty's Day, and we're a very Irish family.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so, I grew up, my mother, her father was 100% Irish and her grandparents were from Ireland.
Okay.
And so, St. Patty's Day in our house growing up was a big to do. It was so wonderfully celebrated. She always made the day so special. So
Hmm.
when St. Patty's Day comes around, of course, I think of my mom.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
always think of my
Hmm.
mom. And so, recovery doesn't mean that I never feel sad again.
Hmm.
Recovery, but when I went in and I was able to find what was incomplete up, in my relationship with my mom up until the moment of her death, because then a new relationship with my mom started because now she's gone. And so, it's I still have an emotional relationship and that's
Hmm.
still there.
Hmm.
So it it cleared the way going it cleared going in and doing the work of everything that had been incomplete up until the moment of her death, made paved the way for fond memories to move forward.
Hmm.
And so sometimes, those fond memories, they still, I still get a tear in my eye over that. And it's all those things that I wished were different, better, or more. So where I wished I could have showed, like I have a granddaughter and I bought her the cutest little St. Patty's Day dress and
Hmm.
tulle skirt and everything, and it was
Hmm.
just so much fun. And I thought to myself yesterday, oh my goodness, I so wish that I would have been able to have taken a picture and sent that to my mom and shared that with my mom.
Hmm.
And so that in that moment, that's an incomplete emotional communication. So I just took the time to just say that,
Hmm.
to share that with a listening ear that, I wished, that I could have shared that with my mom. I wish that she was still here, that I could share that with her. And so that's how healing takes place. It's
Hmm.
discovering those things that it's all those, yeah, undelivered communications of an emotional nature of, and it doesn't have to be the big things. It's all the things, even the little things, all the things that we wish were different, better, or more.
Hmm.
Once we recognize them and address them and then communicate them, healing,
Hmm.
healing takes place. And it's always so sad to me to I always feel very sad when people when I see others caught up in the belief that it's somebody else's job to make me better,
Mm-hmm.
because I know they'll never heal.
Mm-hmm.
They'll never heal. And that is very sad. That is very sad. Because, even, the conditioning for that thought, that belief system starts when we're very little,
Mm-hmm.
with things like, we say to our kids, very well meaning, of course, oh, you cleaned up your bedroom. That you made mommy so happy. Or don't do that to your brother. You're going to make him very sad. Or, oh, wait till you find out, wait till dad finds out what you did. You will make him, he will be so angry. That will make him so angry. So we prime small children to believe that they can cause other people to feel a certain way,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which then they're able to reverse. And they're like, well,
Mm-hmm.
if I can make somebody else feel a certain way, then somebody else can make me feel a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
which then makes somebody else responsible for making me feel differently.
Okay. Yeah, then they're responsible for, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
instead
And
of claiming it.
yes,
And
yes. And
okay.
we hear at the tip off, the sentence that we'll hear in a conversation is, well, they made me mad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, they
Yep.
made me mad. I recently saw this clip of this woman who uh saw she was passing by people who were doing, like, I guess they were filming like a podcast, like some type of like like Instagram reel or something like that, and she didn't like the conversation that they were having. She got mad about it, and she felt justified in damaging their property, and it's all on film. And so they call the police, and the police come over, and he's like, what happened? And she's like, well, they made me mad, as if, absolving herself of all responsibility whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's obviously a very extreme case, but that's,
Mm-hmm.
that's the tip off. you
Mm-hmm.
know when do we hear that come out of our mouths? When are we saying that? If I'm saying that, then in that moment I am giving away all responsibility, and therefore all my power, in choosing to feel differently.
Mm-hmm.
And especially reframing our thinking and our speaking, so we don't pass that on to kids. So instead of, like, this is one of the things that I work through with my clients, but even with children, but even like my grandchildren, instead of saying, like, when my grandkids comes to me and is like, oh, she took that from me, instead of saying, well, how did that make you feel?
Mm-hmm.
Because in that question, I'm putting all the responsibility on his sister for how he
Mm-hmm.
feels.
Mm-hmm.
But I can say to him, and I ask him, well, how do you feel?
Okay.
Like, own it, just how do you feel? Okay, well, then now let's figure out what we can do about that.
Mm-hmm.
And the choice is up to him if he, wants to figure out a solution or not. So, but that's the most important thing that people need to do in order to move into recovery, is to be willing to take responsibility for their emotional healing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's when we don't, that's the number one thing that keeps us stuck.
Okay. And I was gonna say, and it sounds like acknowledging kind of how you feel, what you were saying earlier, not sweeping it under the rug.
Right.
Acting like we're good when we're not good, but acknowledging that and then trying to work on that. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's processing each emotion we have right when we have it.
Mm-hmm.
So, a
Mm-hmm.
really fast example of that is, like, you're at the aquarium, and you're standing at this large, like this large tank, and this beautiful tropical fish goes by, and it's so colorful, and you're like, oh wow, oh my word, that's so amazing. look at how beautiful that is. Like, look at the colors. That was so beautiful. And then this giant shark comes by and you step back and you're startled. You step back and you say, oh my word, I'm so startled right now. That scared me. I wasn't expecting that shark to come by, and that
Hmm.
was scary. And then another beautiful fish, an odd looking fish comes by, and you're just in wonder. And you're like, what kind of creature is that? I'm in awe. That's a great example of someone processing each emotion as they're having it. And so when we allow ourselves to
Hmm.
do that, when
Hmm.
we give ourselves the gift to feeling what we're feeling right when we're feeling, that doesn't mean that, because I'm angry, I'm not saying people have a license to be rude. I'm not saying that's not what I'm saying, but just saying to yourself, acknowledging to yourself, right now, I am angry. Why am I angry? What happened that I'm angry? This happened that I'm angry. What can I do about it? Well, here are my choices. What's
Hmm.
the most productive thing that I can do right now to move forward? Can I change what happened? I can't. Okay, so if I
Hmm.
can't, but what can I do? What can I do in and of myself
Hmm.
to move forward? I'm really sad right now. Why am I sad? It's it I mean, even if we just give our hearts the opportunity to label what we're feeling when we're
Hmm.
feeling it,
Hmm.
that in and of itself is huge. And and that's emotional mastery. So yeah. So
Hmm. Oh, that sounds really good. Yeah, to be able to do that. And then you're not throwing that on someone else, but claiming it and being like, okay, so I'm gonna deal with this. It wasn't anybody else's fault or anything. This is how I feel. Because that could be in a lot of situations. And sometimes we just don't care how we just let it out because they made us mad. They did something that,
right.
that they shouldn't have been. So we don't even care at that point. But
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
not
I
helping.
mean,
It's not helping.
yeah, I mean that's, and I just really fast want to say, when people mistreat you, just like the rain
Hmm.
obviously
Hmm.
ruined the picnic. People can absolutely do something and you feel a certain way,
Hmm.
100%. But after that initial feeling, now it's my responsibility. What am I going to do with it?
Hmm.
What am I going to do with that? So, yeah. So recovery really, it's a beautiful thing. Healing is possible after losing people. And I will say, I have such a beautiful relationship, emotional relationship with my parents now. And even before my father died in my very early 40s, he died because I chose to do the work
Hmm.
and forgive him. I was
Hmm.
able, that shifted the
Hmm.
emotional relationship that I had with him while he was alive.
Hmm.
Stuff definitely came up after he died, but I
Hmm.
dealt, I dealt with it.
Hmm.
And so, now my garden is free of weeds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. It
Yeah.
is so good. Well, I thank you so much for putting the four things together for the unpacking all these things with grief so we can understand it better and then, yeah, move forward.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for the opportunity to share all this. This has
Yeah.
been absolutely delightful meeting with you every week, May. I've really enjoyed our time together. And I just think you're the sweetest, kindest
Oh.
woman. And I just want you to know that.
Aw, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Don't always feel that way, but thank you. Thank you very much for that. And yeah, I like that I get to do this to help others in their journey. I mean, right when I lost my son, I just kind of knew that God had something in it, right? That I could help others, like in his death, they would bring life actually to someone else. And one of my prayers right when I lost him was, Lord, if there's anyone that knows us that doesn't know you, may this be their moment. That just
Mhm.
something that would bring them, draw them, point them to God. And that so then through that, then it was like he would be giving life to others through our loss. And
Mhm.
so,
That's beautiful.
so he gets all the praise and all the glory.
Yeah,
It's beautiful that God does and redeems our stories and all. And yeah, I
absolutely.
thank you so much for the work that you're doing as a grief specialist. And so, yeah, is there any kind of other things you want to share, like where people can find you. I think, and every time, like I have link on the description, I'll anything else you want to kind of throw out there and mention as we wrap our last session up.
It's just that yeah, healing is possible, and if someone were interested, it's an 8-week program, and it's a very structured program. It's different in therapy in the sense that you there are well-defined action steps that are laid out for the griever to take in order to move from heartbreak to
Hmm.
healing.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so it's not we're not talking necessarily about, you already know how you feel. When you work with when you work with me, I'm going to teach you what to do with what you feel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. So like with some of the things we talked about, like especially here at the last one. So
yes,
how do
yeah,
you, okay.
yeah,
How do you
yeah.
kind of move
There's
forward? What do you do with what you're feeling?
Right,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah, there's this whole process that I take my clients through in helping them discover what is emotionally incomplete. And then I teach them very specifically how to get complete. But again, the key is if they're not willing to, I mean, if somebody's working with me, they have taken responsibility for
Hmm.
their emotional well-being, for their heart.
Hmm.
Um, but uh, but yeah, I take all my grievers through, through that whole
Yeah.
process, and I just guide them through it very gently, um, and I just support them and love them, and yeah, and I'm
Okay.
so grateful that I get to do the work that I do.
Yeah. Ah, that's amazing. Sounds good. Well, all the best to all your work and thank you so much again and all the best to everyone that's listening. Hope you have a great week and yeah, we'll be
All
back for
right,
another
thank you,
Thoughtful Thursday.
everyone. Yeah,
Yeah, take
take care.
care. Thank you so
All right,
much.
bye.